Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Office Bloke Daz.
I'm Office Bloke Mike.
I'm Office Bloke Max.
If your first time here, welcome to the channel.
Yeah, hi.
Every insane... Do you like conspiracies?
I love talking about it, just because
It's a conversation starter, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's loads of people who take it a little bit too far.
Oh, I think so, definitely, yeah. I think a lot of them you can sort of like debunk fairly easily, but, you know, some of them I think, why is there a conspiracy theory about that particular
It's like
subject?
people who think the world's round and all that. It's like crazy. Yeah,
As if, eh?
all right. Everyone knows it's flat. There's massive ice at the end and you just fall off. All right? Everyone knows that, right?
Yeah, cool, yeah, sure.
pigeons literally aren't real.
No, right?
Come on, it's the CIA, I'm telling you.
Sort of things you talk about in the pub at like 11:30 at night, isn't
I
it?
mean, some of them, some of them just shake me head, I think. Do something else. Too much time.
Remember the
on
guy
your
who
hands.
came in my office that time and he just went, for a start, that's wrong, and pointed at the globe. It just went off, for fuck's sake. One of them days. Why me? Yeah. Anyway, this is every insane conspiracy theory that turned out to be true.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Canada's gay radar. Let's go for it.
Heart attack pistol. In 1975, William Colby, the CIA director at the time, had to testify in front of a committee that was investigating the CIA. This happened because there were many accusations of assassinations of foreign and American politicians from the CIA. So the US Senate put it under investigation for alleged covert action abuses, which resulted in 14 reports of major abuses by the CIA, FBI, and NSA. However, there was an accusation or conspiracy theory that was much more worrying than the rest of them. It was thought that the CIA had developed a pistol that could fire a poison dart from around 300 feet, cause death, and leave no trace of what the cause was. When William Colby declared that they had a poison dart gun that was potentially basically completely silent, felt like a mosquito bite to the target, went through clothes, caused a heart attack, and left no traces but a small red spot because the dart melted, the public was shocked. Furthermore, it was revealed that this wasn't an isolated case. It was part of Project MK Naomi, a project designed to increase U.S. biological and chemical warfare capabilities. This was the only time this gun was shown in public. USA's fake Cuban terrorist attack. In 1960...
Wow.
Hang on a minute.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's more terrifying than an actual gun.
Yeah.
Because there's no trace.
Know nothing about it. And the dart melting.
Yeah.
That's the winner, isn't it?
Some James Bond stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it just?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's, I guess it's turned out to be true.
Well,
Yeah.
going off what these guys are saying here, it did. So
You buying that or what?
I reckon that they have worse in there. If he's had to be like, right, we've got this one. What else have we
What else
got?
have they got?
I'm surprised that they could get the CIA and FBI in court, though,
Yeah.
to tell them things like this. You'd think they'd be all secretive and say, no, absolutely
tell you
not.
about it,
Can't
yeah.
tell you about it, which I find a bit strange, really.
Yeah.
But,
1962, during the Cold War, tensions between the U.S. and Cuba were high because Fidel Castro had risen to power in Cuba and allowed communists to join the new Cuban government, nationalized U.S. businesses, and improved relations with the Soviet Union. Furthermore, the Cuban Missile Crisis happened when the Soviet Union placed nuclear missiles capable of hitting the U.S. on Cuban soil after the U.S. placed theirs on Italy and Turkey. Operation Northwoods was a plan by the United States Department of Defense to stage terrorist attacks against American citizens and blame the Cuban government in order to justify a war against Cuba. They wanted to hijack civilian planes and make them appear as if U.S. Air Force planes were shot down by Cuba, to simulate the downing of a U.S. fighter jet off the coast of Cuba, to blow a U.S. ship, and to organize terrorist attacks in U.S. cities. The plan also included creating a Cuban communist terror campaign in the Miami area, in other Florida cities, and even in Washington, which would involve bombing civilian targets. The plan was approved by the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but was ultimately rejected by President John F. Kennedy because it would have been too risky and could have led to a full-scale war with the Soviet Union. CIA's fake animals. In the 19...
It's heavy, that, isn't
that's
it?
a bit dark, that one, isn't
right?
it? I
But it
think-
goes to show what does happen.
well, what
If it,
could
was
happen?
approved, if it was approved, but then...
Well, it's even more
knocked on the
frightening.
head.
Yeah, what happens?
It's even
what
more
happened to
frightening,
Kennedy
isn't
after that. What I'm saying,
Yeah,
what
fair
happened to him?
point. Fair point.
Well,
Yeah.
that's another theory, isn't it? That's like the CIA took him out. That's another big one that
Is
I've
it?
heard. I've heard that, like,
Who have you attacked from?
yeah, exactly.
Dave in the pub.
Yeah, wearing a tinfoil hat. Funny enough.
Dave
yeah.
the Sniper.
So I was in Dallas, right?
I was on this knoll, it was a bit grassy.
1970s, the CIA developed what they called the Insectothopter, which was a drone the size of a dragonfly and hand-painted to look like one. It was kept secret until December 2003, when it was revealed to the public at the CIA Museum, and the project was abandoned because it was too difficult to fly in crosswinds. Another similar project was the AeroVironment Nano Hummingbird, created with specifications given by the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. These weren't the only...
I think your experienced twitcher might sense that that wasn't a real bird, though.
Yeah.
A pair of binoculars and you're done for, aren't you? metal wings and bloody hinges on its wings and stuff like that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Trevor, what's that we got over there? That's not a bird, mate.
Trevor.
Only times they used animals or crafted fake animals to spy on their enemies. During the Cold War, they developed a camera so light that it could be carried by pigeons in order to take aerial photos, and they even
Pigeons
trained
are not
some
real,
of these
though.
pigeons to
Told you,
drop
told you.
eavesdropping devices onto window ledges. However, despite successfully placing some of these devices, no usable audio was captured from them. They even used fake fish to secretly check water samples for the presence of nuclear runoff or other suspicious substances. USA's fake Vietnam attack. In 1964, tensions between the United States and North Vietnam were at an all-time high, and things worsened on the 2nd of August when North Vietnamese forces shot at a U.S. destroyer while it was doing a covert operation close to North Vietnamese territorial waters. The U.S. government then, on the 4th of August, said that a second attack happened, while this was false. The commander of the Maddox, Captain John Herrick, initially reported the attack but later expressed doubts, attributing the radar signals to freak weather effects. And despite these uncertainties, the Lyndon Johnson administration relied on misinterpreted communications intercepts to conclude that the attack was real. Also, in October 2005, the New York Times reported that Robert J. Hanyuk, an historian for the NSA, concluded that the NSA distorted intelligence reports passed to policymakers. He said agency staff deliberately skewed the evidence to make it
Imagine
appear
that.
that an
That's
attack had
real.
occurred. This was probably done with the goal of providing the Johnson administration with the justification needed for military action in Vietnam. Years after the incident, Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense during the time, admitted himself that the August 4th attack had never occurred. The Johnson administration was probably just seeking a reason to escalate American involvement in Vietnam as Cold War tensions increased, and the domino theory made its way through the U.S. military, which said that the fall of one country to communism would lead to the fall of others in the region, causing more fear. Because of this false operation, Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, granting President Johnson broad powers to conduct military operations in Vietnam without a formal declaration of war. Canada's gay radar. At that time, homosexual people were persecuted by the Canadian government, and they were trying to find new ways to get rid of them from public jobs, especially the police and military. In the 1960s, Dr. Frank Robert Wake, a psychologist...
Look at his name. And all the things that's going on at the moment, he's called Wake.
Yeah.
But it's over here now. You think you've got to be gay or something to get in the military or the police, haven't you? In England,
I don't know.
I think that's the first question they ask. Are you gay? And you're in. Not gay. Out.
Don't look at straight boys in here. Fuck off.
Psychology professor at Carleton University developed what's called the gaydar or fruit machine, which was a series of psychological tests with the purpose
not
of
having this.
identifying.
Fruit machine.
It worked by
Crazy.
using erotic
Jeez.
images
Fruit
and what were
machine.
thought to be homosexual words to see if there were any physiological changes that could point to a sexual arousal, such as the dilation of their pupils. Of course, this machine was completely pseudoscientific and unreliable. The room's light could
No
change
way.
the dilation of the pupil, and many more outside variables made it faulty.
Imagine that. Turn the light on and off and go gay. Lock him up.
Wow. This is an absolutely incredible one. This.
Yeah.
I'm not buying
Gee,
this
I mean,
one.
Come
right?
off it.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, these
Wow.
tests caused hundreds, if not thousands, of people to get fired. The U.S. government poisoned alcohol. From 1920 to 1933, the United States banned alcohol, entering the Prohibition era. This made the alcohol black market
Imagine.
flourish, enabling
I know,
criminal
yeah.
organizations like the Mafia to enrich themselves. So the United States government had to find a way to stop this. They went to extreme lengths to try to reduce the black market's activity and to make people stop drinking, but their efforts had poor results. So the government became frustrated and started adding large amounts of methyl alcohol, a substance that made the illegal drinks really dangerous, as a very small amount of undiluted methyl alcohol could kill a human being.
Would you say would you risk it?
No.
If they blocked alcohol over here and they said, but we're going to poison alcohol, would you think, I don't know if it's been poisoned or not, and you get a bottle and you're thinking, you give it your wife first, wouldn't you? Something like
Yeah.
that. Just have a sip of that first.
Kids.
I don't think I'd risk it. Try that. I mean, if they actually said that's what we're doing, we're going to poison it all, then
Yeah.
you think,
I like
Yeah.
a pint, not that much.
yeah.
This was probably done thinking that the black market sellers would have avoided selling poisoned alcohol to their customers, as they would have lost them when they died. But they didn't take into account that the demand for illegal alcohol was so booming at the time that the sellers didn't really care about their customers' lives. The effects quickly showed. In 1926, in New York City, 585 people died from this government action, and over 5,000 fatalities from this poisoning. At least a 600% increase from the previous deaths from alcohol were said to have resulted in the entire country. CIA's fake vaccines. During the hunt for Osama bin Laden, the CIA conducted a secret operation using a fake hepatitis vaccination program in Pakistan to illegally collect blood samples and confirm the presence of bin Laden or his family. The CIA planned to compare the DNA samples collected from the program with the DNA of bin Laden's sister, who had died in Boston in 2010. The program ultimately failed. It led to the arrest of a participating doctor, Shakil Afridi, and was widely criticized for undermining public health. The operation is blamed for increasing vaccine hesitancy in Pakistan and triggering violence against healthcare workers, who were perceived as spies. As a result, Pakistan saw a resurgence of polio, becoming the country with the highest number of polio cases in the world by 2014. The CIA director issued a directive in 2013 prohibiting the agency from using vaccination programs for operational purposes, including recruiting healthcare workers. It's in situations like these that we see the impact information has on our perception and beliefs. The health of the Pakistani population was undermined by disinformation that caused disbelief in the healthcare system. It's crucial to get an objective view on matters. For example, news outlets might frame stories through a different lens based on their political leanings and interests. Fortunately, today's sponsor, Ground News, addresses this issue by enabling us to see a broader, unbiased perspective by gathering news doesn't tell you what to think. They gather the world's news to help you come to your news mission aligns with what I aim to do here on my top-tier Vantage plan I use for unlimited access to all their features. Thanks again to Ground News for sponsoring this video. Operation Sea Spray. In 1950, the Navy wanted to test the vulnerability of a city like San Francisco to a biological weapons attack in a project called Operation Sea Spray. To do so, they released two types of bacteria, Serratia marcescens and Bacillus globigii, into San Francisco Bay. The operation happened between September 20th and 27th, and the bacteria were released from a ship off the coast of San Francisco. It's said that they did this because they thought they would have been harmless to humans, but on October 11th, 11 residents checked into Stanford Hospital in San Francisco with very rare, serious urinary tract infections. 10 of them recovered, but one man, who had had recent prostate surgery, died 3 weeks later from a heart valve infection. His relatives later tried to sue the government, but they lost because the bacteria used in the test was unproven to be responsible for his death. The urinary tract outbreak was so unusual that the Stanford doctors wrote it up for a medical journal. None of the other hospitals in the city reported similar spikes in cases, and all 11 victims had urinary tract infections following medical procedures, suggesting that the source of their infections was inside the hospital. Cases of pneumonia in San Francisco also increased after Serratia marcescens was released, even though a causal relationship has not been established. Overall, the Army determined that San Francisco had received enough of a dose for nearly all of the city's 800,000 residents to inhale at least 5,000 of the particles, which is within the range of infectivity for anthrax. Project Sunshine.
Hang on a minute.
That's mad.
The numbers don't add up though, do they?
What, having 5,000 particles each?
Yeah, but then only 11 people, or was it? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not many, is it?
No.
Not out of a population of 800,000,
No.
is it? Not
No.
It's absolutely tiny.
Yeah.
So...
Project Sunshine was a series of research studies done by the U.S. government that began in 1953 to see the impact of radioactive fallout on the world's population, which remained secret until 3 years later, in 1956. They wanted to see the body's reaction to radioactive isotope strontium-90, which represented the most serious threat to human health from nuclear fallout, especially on kids, since their young developing bone tissues have the highest propensity to accumulate strontium-90, and thus they have the highest susceptibility to radiation damage. Of course, this type of experiment wasn't that feasible, since doing it on alive humans would be an ethical monstrosity, and there weren't many familiars that would like to donate their deceased loved ones to be experimented on like this. Somehow, though, 1,500 sample cadavers, mostly babies and young children, appeared out of nowhere. That's because they were taken from countries ranging from Australia to Europe, often without their parents' consent or knowledge. A British mother had even said that her stillborn baby's legs were removed by British doctors, and to prevent her from finding out what had happened, she was not allowed to dress the baby for the funeral. The Dalai Lama worked for the CIA.
Wow.
What?
That's...
I think there'd be more noise about that, because I've never
Again,
heard of
it's a
that.
bit dark, that one, wasn't it?
It's very
It is.
dark.
Although it's a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
These
So,
things,
you
these
know.
things that happen like that, which I can believe. Like if someone said to me, you know, when you people who are deceased, the body's sold to do whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I buy that. And then,
I think, especially
imagine that.
in the 50s,
Yeah.
I can, I'm with you. I
Yeah.
think that probably did happen.
Yeah.
I think nowadays,
I think
you got absolutely no chance of
It'd
it.
be far too hard to do it.
Hey?
It'd be far too hard to do it.
Yeah,
I bet it-
In
it
certain
happens,
countries, I think you could, but in the developed countries like in Europe and United States, it's highly unlikely because I think people would be all over it, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think,
You know,
the ethical
people
side
with
of it.
people with sort of like relations that have passed away or something would be all over it, wouldn't they? And,
Oh, when I die, you can do whatever you want. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You chop me up and use me for whatever you need.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know what I mean? No one's going to want my liver, for example. Good news or the bad news, we've got a liver, matches yours.
We'll just throw you in a We'll just lob you in a muck spreader near his farm and.
Hi, mate. Want some dead and dead, aren't I?
Exactly,
Don't matter.
yeah.
True.
During the Cold War, it seemed like China and its Communist Party wanted to increase their influence on Tibet, which worried the United States. Consequently, the CIA created what was called the CIA Tibetan Program, where they trained and strengthened various isolated Tibetan resistance groups, which eventually led to the creation of a paramilitary force of 2,000 men. They also sent military supplies in stealthy ways to not attract China's attention, and they spread pro-Tibetan propaganda by showing the human rights abuses in Tibet under Chinese rule. The plan reached $1.7 million of annual funding, and the funny thing is that the Dalai Lama himself received an annual salary of $180,000 from the late 1950s to the mid-1970s,
be a lot of
even
money,
though
yeah.
he stated that he used most of the funds received from the CIA to finance the activities of the Tibetan government in exile. His brother, Gyalo Thondup, was also considered a CIA's top asset. The program ended after President Nixon visited China to establish closer relations in 1972, but the Dalai Lama and his brother thought that this demonstrated that the US didn't care about genuinely helping the Tibetan people, but that they were following their own interests in the Cold War. The US president's wife became the real president. Edith Wilson was the wife of President Woodrow Wilson when, in October 1919, he suffered a stroke that heavily incapacitated him. They hid the true extent of the president's illness and disability from the American public, and although she was never officially elected president of the United States, she played a significant role in managing the country after
Say history repeats
Never knew
itself,
that.
don't they?
True.
her husband's condition, and some scholars even call her the secret president or the first woman president. She took control of many of the day-to-day functions of the executive branch, deciding which communications, issues, and matters of state were important enough to bring to the bedridden president's attention. For this
I wonder what the thing you thought of that assignment, because they must have had like a...
Dalai Lama.
No.
He's thinking, when am I going to get paid now?
I know, yeah. No, the president's running mate, the
The vice president.
vice president, because they must have had a vice president as well. And you thought he would have known how ill he was and that he would have stepped in.
Yeah, well,
But-
Yeah, it's true.
You'd think
Well,
so.
you got similar issues, haven't you, at the moment with Biden with his mental health. He's got
Yeah.
Alzheimer's or dementia or whatever he may possibly have.
I'm not sure whether it's been
Yeah.
diagnosed, but he's,
There's
he's
not,
definitely
there's not much going on.
It's definitely getting a bit forgetful, isn't he? But
Yeah,
But-
it makes you wonder, sort of like if it's a similar situation where does a vice president step in with Harris, or I don't know, with it, is it sort of like, is it just left to?
in this case, it was his wife, though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Wasn't the
yeah,
vice
yeah.
president.
Yeah,
That's what I found a bit. I never knew anything about that. But
You're going back a while, aren't you?
Yeah.
well, again, yeah, it's 1919, was it?
Yeah, yeah,
Something.
yeah.
So
reason, she required that all members of the cabinet send urgent matters, memoranda, correspondence, questions, and requests to her. In this way, she became the sole link of communication between the president and his cabinet. Even though she claimed that she didn't take any decisions herself, her role as a potential gatekeeper of info gave her lots of power and influence, and some suggest that she even successfully pushed for the removal of Secretary of State Robert Lansing. CIA's cat spies. In the 1960s, Operation Acoustic Kitty was launched, which
When you go to Russia, right? You get a spy in Russia and bring all the intelligence back, and you know what he said? Me? How?
oh, gee.
Hey.
Oh no.
to use cats as spies. This project's estimated cost, according to former CIA officer Victor Marchetti, was around $20 million, and the procedure consisted of implanting a microphone in the cat's ear canal, a small radio transmitter at the base of its skull, and a thin wire in its fur. The first mission of a cat spy was to eavesdrop on two men in a park near the Soviet embassy in Washington, D.C. The cat was released nearby, but was almost immediately hit by a taxi. However, Robert Wallace, a former director of the CIA's Office of
Brilliant.
Technical Service, disputed this version in 2013. He said the project was abandoned due to the difficulty in training the cat. This failure, accompanied by other failed tests, caused the project to get shut down in 1967. USA's gay bomb. The idea of a gay bomb, a non-lethal chemical weapon designed to make enemy soldiers attracted to each other,
Instead of it going boom, it's hello.
was considered by the U.S. Air Force. This hypothetical weapon, mentioned in a 1994 Department of Defense document, aimed to disperse sexual pheromones among enemy forces to generate mutual attraction, leading to mass confusion and panic. Along with the
explains a
gay
lot.
bomb, other ideas were discussed, such as remotely engineering body odors using compounds found in bad breath and excessive sweating, with the goal of making the enemy so smelly that they could be easily detected by their opponents. However, there is no evidence that these weapons were used or that it's possible to create such a thing. If you want to discuss this video or suggest an idea for the
Wow.
Great.
Not sure about that gay bomb.
No,
Yeah.
it's the other one, the fruit machine.
Fruit machine.
Brilliant.
Oh,
Well, they won't know we have fruit machines over here, don't we? On the fruities.
oh yeah, probably different over here. Yeah, that's right.
It's weird, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fruit machine.
It's a great name.
Yeah, some bizarre theories there. Isn't
Yeah.
there? Really, some
But
strange.
say it turned out to be true, but it's
I
Yeah.
guess there's shreds of evidence that will.
Clearly, not all of them were used, or not
Yeah.
all of them got off the ground as well. There was
Yeah.
like ideas, some of them, I think,
Yeah.
weren't they, by the sound of it?
A
But,
few more, like, you can accept them more than others.
yeah,
Like
the,
the Vietnam
body,
War.
the body parts and all that. I can
Yeah.
believe that.
I can see that, yeah, and all the spy ones.
Yeah.
I can
Cat.
probably see that. I don't know about the cat one,
Cut
but
with that one, you'd be like,
yeah.
what? Run that by me again.
I hope that taxi part's true.
Yeah, almost like imagine if you got killed by the
Got
taxi.
killed by the
That's
taxi.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, kitty. Done. Man. Yeah, enjoyed that. Funny.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, good one.
Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.
Cheers.